Back on RJ Debate. Two hosts, two takes, one brutal question. Is our obsession with the end of the world a warning we need to take seriously? Or is it just frying our brains and making everything worse?
And somewhere out there, someone just closed their 27th tab about climate collapse and AI doom. Like, fuck, they're talking about me.
If you're literally listening while doom scrolling wars, pandemics, and democracy is dead threads, yeah, this one's for you. I'm taking the alarmist side tonight. I think apocalyptic imagination is a necessary warning system. Our end of the world stories are how we face real threats and real injustice, not just melodrama.
And I'm the chill skeptic. I don't mean nothing's wrong. A lot of things are seriously wrong. But I think the way we lean on apocalypse language right now, 24/7, tends to paralyze people, supercharge politics, and fuel anxiety more than action. So I'm very handle with care.
Let's start here. We are living in the most apocalyptic narrative era in human history. Not necessarily the most dangerous era, but the most apocalyptically narrated one. Climate crisis, pandemics, AI takeover, nuclear stuff. We don't just say, this is bad. We frame it as the end of civilization, code red for humanity, the last generation. Our brains are basically running end time software on every issue.
I kind of agree, actually. The language of end is everywhere. But I'd add a lot of that is because apocalypse is a great content format. It simplifies chaos, it tells you where the story is going. Everything burns, then maybe justice. That's emotionally satisfying as hell and incredibly easy to abuse.
Sure, but it's not new. Humans have been doing this for millennia. Look at how different cultures use the end to make sense of history. Shahnameh in Persia frames the fall of the Sasanian Empire like a cultural apocalypse, not just a regime change. Swahili Utenzi poems turn storms and broken monsoon winds into eschatological disasters. Javanese texts frame colonial era chaos as Zaman Edan, the age of madness, waiting for a just ruler to reset the world. Same pattern: chaos, monster, savior, new order.
Right. That's the global apocalyptic toolkit. Wherever people feel the ground cracking under them, they grab the same narrative Lego set: signs, moral decay, villain, savior, new world. It's a way to give shape to desperation. But that's exactly my problem. It's so flexible you can plug anything into it. That's why it's dangerous.
Dangerous, but also honest. When formal political language fails, when you can't fully describe slavery or colonization or genocide, apocalypse talk steps in. It says this isn't just bad policy, this world is fundamentally wrong. It's a total critique. That's why some Black and Indigenous scholars talk about apocalypse from below. For them, the world already ended, multiple times.
I respect that use case. When you've literally lived through world-ending events, your city erased, your people enslaved, apocalypse is not cosplay, it's reporting. My issue is more with apocalypse from above, when powerful people use the same language to justify whatever they want. This is the final battle between good and evil, so anything goes. That's when the grammar of the end becomes a cheat code for abuse.
So you're okay with apocalypse as a bottom-up language, but skeptical when it's top-down.
Pretty much. Apocalypse is like fire. In the right place, it keeps you alive. In the wrong place, it burns your house down.
All right, let's do a mini cross-exam. I'll ask you three things.
Here we go.
You admit we're in a real crisis cocktail: climate, pandemics, democratic erosion, AI risk. If we don't use strong apocalyptic language, aren't we just underselling how bad it is? Like, does we face serious challenges really capture possible mass displacement and ecosystem collapse?
I think we need strong language, but apocalypse comes with baggage. It suggests inevitability and totality. If you tell people civilization will collapse, you're not inviting them to fix it, you're inviting them to watch it collapse. I'd rather say we're in deep shit, but trajectories can change.
Two, you brought up propaganda. But historically, apocalyptic imagination gave oppressed people the courage to resist. Enslaved communities, colonized writers, anti-imperial poets, when they say this world is doomed, that becomes a reason to fight. not to give up. Isn't that a feature, not a bug?
It can be, but again, it depends who's using it and how. If a colonized poet says, your empire is doomed, that's resistance. If an empire says, we're fighting the ultimate evil, so we're allowed to do whatever, that's legit terrifying. The form is neutral, the politics aren't.
Last one. You talk a lot about anxiety and panic, but modern life is already anxious. Think about doom scrolling. People are refreshing their feeds like they're reading digital scrolls of Revelation. That's an apocalyptic ritual, whether we name it or not. Wouldn't it be healthier to just admit, yes, you're acting out an end time script, and then guide it, instead of pretending it's just news consumption?
I like the honesty part. I just don't trust most institutions to guide that ritual well. Right now, the guide is the algorithm, and the algorithm doesn't care about your soul, it cares about your engagement time. So yeah, we're doing apocalypse liturgy, but the high priest is Twitter's recommender system. That's what scares me.
Fair. Apocalypse with ads.
Yep, exactly.
Let me lay out my positive case a bit more. I think these end of the world stories are like a global emotional archive. When historians look at Quranic surahs about the sky tearing, mountains exploding, humans scattering like insects, that's not just theology, it's aesthetic decreation. It rips up the normal world in your head so you can see your life differently.
Yeah, those short Meccan surahs are basically chorus horror poetry.
And the point isn't, lol, everything ends, sucks for you. It's this world as you know it will not last. So what are you doing that actually matters? Same with Sufi readings. Rumi takes apocalypse inward. The real end of the world is when your ego dies, your illusions burn, and you see reality more clearly. That's not despair, that's liberation.
I'm with you on internal apocalypse. When people talk about a personal rock bottom, that is a mini doomsday that forces them to rebuild.
Exactly. Now zoom out. In fiction, post-apocalyptic novels, movies, games, what's the core question? Always, what's worth saving when everything else is gone? Community, kindness, dignity. One of the texts literally says, apocalypse stories are a way to renegotiate the social contract, to ask what deserves to survive us.
So you see apocalypse as a moral lab.
Yes, a giant moral lab with very dark lighting. It simplifies the world just enough that you can clearly see if we keep going like this is where it leads. That's not just fear-mongering, that's forecasting.
My issue is when people stop treating it as a lab and start treating it as a prophecy with a timestamp.
But even when the prophecies are wrong, they reveal something. Why were people obsessed with nuclear apocalypse in the Cold War? Because there was a real, terrifying risk. Why are we obsessed with climate apocalypse now? Because we're pushing planetary boundaries. These aren't random fantasies, they're emotional models of real danger.
I'll grant you that. There's usually a real crisis underneath the aesthetic. Okay, let me flip it. My problem isn't apocalypse as such. It's apocalypse as the default filter for everything. Once every political disagreement becomes this is the last battle, you basically turn politics into war. There's no compromise in the book of Revelation. There's only victory or damnation. And when leaders talk like that, nuance dies first, then people.
Yeah, that's real.
Second, doom scrolling. We've basically built a digital book of the dead where you can scroll forever and there is no final chapter. Ancient apocalypses at least gave you closure. Judgment, heaven, hell, a new world. Doom scrolling is like opening scroll after scroll of horror, pandemic, flood, war, without any revelation, just vibes. That makes people feel helpless, which is the worst mental state for action.
So you're saying we took the aesthetic, but deleted the resolution.
Exactly. It's like being stuck in the middle of the movie forever. And psychologically, people respond in a few ways. Freeze, numb out, or go into conspiracy mode. When the official stories feel chaotic and hopeless, tidy doomsday conspiracies actually feel like relief. Like, at least someone's in control, even if they're evil.
That's depressing as hell, but true.
Third problem, overuse. If every election is the last election, every storm is the end of the world, every tech product is the death of humanity, people stop believing you even when you're finally right. It's like pulling the fire alarm every day. At some point, nobody leaves the building.
Yeah. Oh, it's just Tuesday apocalypse again.
Pretty much. And that's where I think we are. The grammar of apocalypse is so overused, we fried our collective bullshit detector. Okay, this is my turn to poke you a bit.
Bring it.
1. If apocalypse is this moral lab you love, what do you say to people who literally have panic attacks from climate or AI doom content? Like young people who report eco-anxiety so intense they don't want kids, don't plan for the future. Is that waking up or is that harm?
I think that's harm from bad use of the tool, not from the tool itself. If all you give them is, we're doomed, yeah, they'll crash. But if you say, this path leads somewhere awful, here's how to help steer, that same fear can become motivation. The problem is the messaging, not the fact we're honest about the stakes.
2. You keep talking about oppressed groups using apocalypse to resist, and I agree. But you also see how apocalypse from above hijacks that, right? So how do you make sure your dramatic rhetoric doesn't accidentally feed the same machinery that justifies wars, crusades, holy quests?
I think you have to punch up, not down. If your apocalypse language is aimed at systems, empires, extractive capitalism, structural racism, that's different from demonizing random groups of people as end times enemies. The line is, are you critiquing a structure or creating a scapegoat?
Last one. Do you worry that some people are low-key in love with the idea of collapse? Like, they fantasize about the reset. No more bosses, no taxes, just survival squads and moral clarity. Reddit has whole threads where people admit post-apocalyptic life sounds kind of appealing. Doesn't that romanticization distort actual risk and suffering?
Yeah, I do worry about that. That's the apocalypse aesthetic, the vibes of ruins, campfires, no emails, without the mass death part. I think part of the job is to keep reminding people real collapse is ugly. Kids dying, medicine gone, vulnerable people hit hardest. If your apocalypse fantasy doesn't include that, you're not imagining collapse. You're imagining a weird camping trip.
The world ended, but the craft coffee survived.
Exactly. That's not apocalypse, that's hipster Hunger Games. Okay, so we agree on a lot more than I expected. Let's talk what now? If we can't get rid of apocalyptic imagination, it's too baked into our species, how do we use it better?
Step 1 for me, downgrade the volume. Apocalypse should be like the break glass in case of emergency language, not the everyday swear jar. Save it for when you really need a total critique of a system. Slavery, genocide, existential risks. Don't waste it on every policy disagreement.
Agreed. And when we do use it, we should pair it with the grammar of repair. If your story ends with everything dies, full stop, that's not a moral lab, that's just despair porn. But if it ends with things fall apart, here's what's worth rebuilding, that's different. A lot of texts you pulled actually end that way. After the ruin, they ask what to keep: soul, justice, ecological balance, compassion.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful points there is that hope isn't in the plot. Often the plot is bleak as hell. Hope is in the act of reading and telling the story together. Like the fact we're still reading Shahnameh, Utendi wa Kiyama, or grim novels like The Road means we haven't given up on reflecting and resisting. That's a kind of quiet anti-apocalypse.
So, for doom scrolling, maybe the hack is notice when you've slid from informed concern into ritual self torture. If every scroll is just confirming, it's over, it's over, it's over, that's not insight anymore. That's liturgy. Close the app, go touch some non apocalyptic reality.
And if you're a journalist, creator, or preacher type, maybe ask yourself, am I using end times language to open people's eyes or to keep them afraid and loyal? If it's the second one, congratulations, you've become the villain in your own apocalypse story.
Plot twist.
Always is.
I'd add one more thing: internal apocalypse as a practice. Instead of constantly fantasizing about the world ending, maybe we need some of that Sufi move. Let parts of your ego, your illusions, your bullshit end. Let your idea of history as this comfy upward line end. Let your denial of other people's suffering end. Tiny doomsday, big upgrade.
Yeah, like maybe the world that needs to end is your belief that the current system is normal and inevitable. If that dies, you don't need a meteor to hit, you just need better choices.
All right, let me land my side. I think our obsession with the end of the world is not a bug, it's a feature of being human. When reality is too big, too chaotic, or too cruel, apocalypse stories are how we compress it into something we can look at without going insane. From sacred texts to resistance poetry to climate fiction, they're the archive where we ask what deserves judgment, what deserves to survive. Used right, that obsession keeps us morally awake.
In my final word, apocalypse imagination is like a loaded weapon on the table. It can empower the oppressed, expose injustice, and force us to see the stakes, but it can also be grabbed by the most powerful, used to legitimize violence, or just sucked into an endless doomscroll that burns out our capacity to care. We shouldn't throw it away, but we definitely shouldn't treat it like a toy.
So respect the end, but don't cosplay it every day.
Exactly. Strong medicine, not daily snack.
That's RJ Debate. If you learned something, like and subscribe.
RJ Debate signing off. Drop your verdict in the comments. Is our apocalypse obsession saving our sanity or breaking it? See you next round.